Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, DSCSA 2023, Requirements and Implementation Strategies for Dispensers. And we'll also look at this requirement as an opportunity for dispensers to improve supply chain performance. Today, we'll cover a couple of topics: DSCSA as a global supply network challenge, and we'll also look at the requirements of DSCSA to connect people, processes, systems, and information, and use the Industry 4.0 framework to do so. We'll talk about our experience using Industry 4.0 in the past as we've supported our customers in meeting track and trace requirements around the world. And then we'll take a deep dive into the DSCSA requirements for dispensers, which are really a step change over what they're doing in 2015. And then we'll take a look at some of the exciting opportunities that will be enabled by DSCSA and TraceLink's unique Opus platform approach, particularly in the areas of digital recalls and product availability intelligence. And from there, we'll wrap it up with some of our experience from the field and our call to action. But first, let's look at the supply chain challenges that exist. And it's really these challenges that are impacting health systems and pharmacies on a daily basis. As many of you know, the majority of medicines that are distributed and consumed in the United States are manufactured outside of our borders. And so therefore, delivering medicines to the patient is really a global supply chain challenge. And it really encompasses a couple of things: being able to get deep traceability into how product is moving through the supply chain. That was really the intent of the Drug Supply Chain and Security Act, but it also encompasses other things. When the FDA put the Drug Supply Chain and Security Act in place, the intent was to provide better visibility and better transparency across the full supply chain. The FDA was also looking to use the Drug Supply Chain and Security Act to better execute other business processes involving drug supply, most notably drug recalls and product availability intelligence. So as we go throughout this presentation, we should be looking at not just the requirements of DSCSA, but how DSCSA can support initiatives to faster execute drug recalls, as well as be able to manage drug shortages more efficiently than we're doing today. And so this is a problem that companies have been thinking about for some time. And it's really led to the establishment of the Industry 4.0 framework, which was really designed to establish a framework that connects people, processes, systems, and information across the end-to-end supply chain. And what Industry 4.0 really speaks to is being able to create digital networks across all business processes within an organization, whether they be supply chain business processes, consumer engagement business processes, really starts to set that framework for how digital networks are created. Once those digital networks are created, it's really looking at how we can share information across those digital networks through applications. So whether we're talking about a track and trace application, a recall application, or other digital commerce type of application, we want to be able to share this information and collaborate with organizations that are outside our four walls. And this is important because we want to be able to connect people in different functional areas within an organization, not just within our own health system or pharmacy, but within our suppliers' organizations as well. DSCSA, most notably, is a supply chain challenge that relies on getting accurate and correct information from our suppliers. And it really speaks to the need to establish a network for companies to be participating in. Now, as we look at this, one of the most exciting aspects of the direction industry is heading in is the establishment of a common data model for information. As information is flowing through the network and we are managing and governing the various business processes that are occurring, we're now able to start to glean specific information across the network. So when we look specifically at the distribution of medicines, starting from when they're manufactured in a foreign market and packaged in a foreign market and then delivered to the US and ultimately delivered to health systems and pharmacies, really looking at how do we glean information about the movement of those products that can help us with supporting drug recalls, as well as being able to detect abnormalities in the supply chain, such as a drug shortage. So, if you think of what Waze has done for traffic intelligence, we're able to do through the TraceLink platform by sourcing this information up, inspecting it, and being able to make decisions on it that are valuable for health systems and retail pharmacies. So the way we do this is through the Opus operating platform. And Opus was really designed as a digital network creation platform and operating platform for our customers, health systems, pharmacies, pharmaceutical manufacturers. And the layers of the Opus platform consist of 5 key areas. The first is that network, where the network is the single source of truth for data and business processes. So we're able to establish tools that allow us to create networks and manage those networks. Now, what flows across those networks are different business processes. What we're here to talk about today is the DSCSA and traceability process, but other relevant and pertinent business processes that the Opus platform is enabling is being able to digitize the recall process or being able to glean information related to drug shortages. What this all leads to is sourcing information across the network, across those different business processes in the area of collective intelligence. And so, as we start to look at that and we instrument our organizations as well as our suppliers' organizations with this capability, we're now able to deploy multi enterprise applications across the network. And a multi enterprise application is really connecting different organizations together in support of a digital business process. For example, the DSCSA process, where we're shipping and receiving medicines and exchanging the compliance information with those medicines, is a great example of some of the multi enterprise applications that we're delivering. And then on top of that, we are building out a development platform that allows TraceLink, as well as our customers and our partners, to build out low code and no code solutions that start to perform interesting things with the data, allows us to establish digital workflows, and continue to develop intelligence and analytics off of the information that's flowing through that network. Now, one of the questions you may be asking is, how do we know that this is valuable, and why is TraceLink so well positioned to deliver on this? And really, when we look at what we've been doing in the industry, in the healthcare industry over the past 10 years, has really been building the foundation of a digital network and multi enterprise applications. And that's for track and trace and compliance applications around the world. So if you take the framework we just presented and apply it to track and trace, it really is a industry 4.0 success story, where we have, through our network creation and administration, have been able to authenticate and onboard over 286,000 companies and entities onto the network. We have integrated across hundreds, creating thousands of serialization links between pharmaceutical manufacturers and not just their internal locations, but contract manufacturing locations that are packaging their products and applying the serialization and traceability information. The information that's flowing through the network today is massive. We are managing over 30 billion serial numbers that are flowing through the network today, and using that information to perform compliance activities in the US, where we're meeting the early requirements of the Drug Supply Chain and Security Act, as well as globally in markets such as the EU, Russia, Brazil, India, South Korea. And so for us, we've gained a lot of experience in how to deploy, operate, and manage true digital network applications. And it's this experience and this capability that we will be applying to the needs of the health systems and retail pharmacies as they meet the requirements of DSCSA 2023. And so what I'd like to do now is let's jump into the specific requirements for health systems and dispensers as we move towards the final milestone of DSCSA in November of 2023. What you see here is a timeline of dispenser requirements from 2015, which was the enactment of the Drug Supply Chain and Security Act, through to 2023. And I think what is key here is through this evolution, we've seen a couple of things happen. The first phase of DSCSA for dispensers was really about establishing some amount of traceability in the supply chain from manufacturer to wholesale distributor out to the pharmacy. And we did this at the lot level. And today, many of you are receiving this compliance information through the use of an advanced ship notice or an ASN. In 2020, the dispensers were required to only transact in serialized product, meaning they had to receive, and if they did do any sort of shipping, the products that they were involved in that had to be serialized. So they had to have that 2D barcode on the product. There was really no information system requirements at that point, but just the ability to be able to document and prove that the dispenser is only using serialized product in their inventory. This starts to change substantially in 2023. In addition to receiving just serialized physical items, the dispenser must now receive and store what is referred to as serialized transaction information and transaction statements. And we need to be able to do this across a secure and interoperable unit level traceability system. This becomes important because we're no longer just sending a document that refers to shipments by the lot level of products. We're now receiving electronic documents that will have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of individual serial numbers structured in that document that represent the physical shipment. This will create some pretty substantial IT and solution operational scalability requirements. But visually, let's take a look at some of the capabilities required between 2015, where we are today, and 2023. In the blue, you see DSCSA 2015, and it was really about being able to integrate with my direct suppliers and to be able to receive that transaction information, statement, and history in an ASN from my suppliers that are sending me shipments. In 2023, we've now introduced serialization, and along with introducing serialization and item level traceability, the requirements and capability to meet 2023 have gone through a step change. So we still have direct supplier integration. although this integration will now be for what is referred to as receiving EPCIS transactions as opposed to the ASN. We need the ability to store the massive amounts of serialization information that we'll now be receiving. This is referred to as the serialized TI and the transaction statement. So a repository to be able to receive that information. In addition, serialization introduces some new categories of master data. This is the GTIN and pack level master data. Now, the source of truth, the owners of that master data, are the pharmaceutical manufacturers. A GTIN is equivalent to a product code. It's the global trade identification number. And pack level master data defines the packaging level that GTIN is applied to. As these EPCIS transactions come in, they will define products through the use of that GTIN. Therefore, the dispensers, in order to be able to process and recognize what is in those EPCIS transactions, will need to be able to have a system and add these master data elements so that they can be used in the processing of those EPCIS transactions. What that will involve is a new requirement to not only integrate to direct suppliers, but indirect suppliers, the pharmaceutical manufacturers, who you may not have a direct commercial relationship with today. And there's a couple of areas where you may need to interact with those indirect suppliers, the pharmaceutical manufacturers. The acquisition of GTIN and pack level master data is one of them. In addition, DSCSA 2023 introduces requirements for product verification when investigating suspect and illegitimate product. And that verification can and should be done against the pharmaceutical manufacturer's system of record, their source of truth for that information. All of that needs to be done using what is referred to as authorized trade partner credentialing, which is another requirement being defined by industry to ensure that we are authorizing the flow of information, and only organizations that are permissioned to access information are allowed. There are also requirements for product tracing, to be able to trace back a product from where it was supplied from the distributor, and then the distributor to the manufacturer. And then the FDA has stated that it intends to use the tools and capabilities industry deploys for DSCSA to improve its ability to execute a recall. So although there's no specific recall requirements that are part of DSCSA, the FDA has stated a number of times that it is intending to use the tools of DSCSA to enforce and optimize recall execution. So this is certainly a lot to unpack. And so let's provide a more visual representation of what this may look like and why we believe that 2023 is a network challenge for dispensers. What you see here is a fairly simplistic view of the medicine supply chain. So we have our hospitals and pharmacies represented on the left-hand side here, and the pharmaceutical manufacturers on the other side of that supply chain. And so when 2023 goes into effect, there's different flows of information that will now be introduced. First and foremost is replacing that ASN with what is now referred to as an EPCIS transaction. And that transaction will flow from the pharmaceutical manufacturer to the wholesale distributor, ultimately out to the dispenser. In addition to that, we talked about the requirements for product verification. And this may be when there's an investigation around a suspect product or an illegitimate product, the requirements by that dispenser to perform a verification of the GTIN, the serial number, the lot number, and the expiration date. And to be able to perform that verification against the source of truth, which is the pharmaceutical manufacturer's repository. Product tracing is also a tool that will be needed to be put in place in order to be able to request the transaction history of a product as it moved through the supply chain. So to be able to request from the wholesale distributor the serialized transaction information and transaction statement. When investigating a recall, a dispenser may receive a notification from a government authority, say the FDA, or another trade partner, the pharmaceutical manufacturer, a wholesale distributor, to participate in a trace request for a recall investigation. And then finally, as we referred to before, the ability to be able to source master data, the GTIN and pack level master data from the pharmaceutical manufacturers, and do this on an ongoing basis as they introduce new products into the market. So ultimately, we've taken a requirement that was in 2015 that was fairly straightforward of sending ASNs from the supplier to the dispenser into a set of electronic interoperability of processes that need to be managed and governed, not just between the dispenser and the wholesale distributors, but in certain cases from the dispenser back to the manufacturer. So with that as a breakdown of the requirements, let's look at the specific capabilities that a dispenser would need from a solution in order to meet those requirements. And we break these down really into three categories. Those categories are what we refer to as multi-enterprise network capabilities, which are really about a dispenser's ability to integrate across their supply chain, whether it be with a wholesaler, a pharmaceutical manufacturer, to be able to perform what is referred to as authorized trade partner checks. This is a requirement that is being put forth by industry to ensure that operators within the industry are compliant with the authorized trade partner credentialing requirements that are being defined. The need to be able to source master data, to be able to perform suspect product verifications, and in addition to be able to either initiate or participate in product tracing. So these are all capabilities that really dictate the need for a network, as a dispenser will not only have to integrate to their direct suppliers, but you see here the use cases and requirements that dictate integrations to indirect suppliers, the pharmaceutical manufacturers. These capabilities are in addition to what we have to do inside the virtual four walls of the pharmacy. We obviously need a serialization and EPCIS repository that's going to be able to maintain the amounts of information that will be introduced with serialization, and not just store it, but be able to combine it with the compliance documentation, make it searchable, retrievable, in the event that I have to produce it as part of an audit or an investigation. There may be situations where you want to go through what we refer to as a serialized receiving process. In some instances, you may choose to scan some amount of the serialized product that is being shipped to you in order to reconcile those physical items to the compliance documents. Now, you may not do that for every shipment, and it's not required as part of the law, but you are required as part of the law to ensure that you have compliance information for every physical item. So you may use capabilities such as serialized receiving and mobile scanning to ensure that you have that you're receiving the right compliance information at the right time. And then finally, there may be integrations into your pharmacy management system. We ultimately want to reduce the workflow impact of serialization and DSCSA. So whenever we can integrate into existing operations and piggyback, if you will, into additional workflows that may be happening within the pharmacy, we want to be able to do that. And then finally, other third-party system integration within the pharmacy. One of the great benefits of moving to a serialized inventory is we are now digitizing pieces of information about that inventory that we didn't before, most notably the lot number and the expiration date. So there may be situations where you want to enrich other systems in the pharmacy with lot number and information to enhance those workflows and business processes, to ensure that product throughout other parts of the hospital or clinic are not part of a recall, or some other illegitimate or suspect product event. So when we look at 2023, there's similar capabilities related to lot level, but as you can see, there's a significant amount of additional capabilities as we move to a fully interoperable and fully electronic requirements at the item level. And what we've learned is that any requirement in the Drug Supply Chain and Security Act is no different, will continue to evolve. Just recently, the FDA published one of its guidance documents related to verification. And there's additional guidance that we expect coming from the FDA as we work towards the 2023 deadline. We are working diligently in industry through standards organizations and industry groups such as PDG to define the requirements for the industry and get industry aligned, but that work is not complete and will continue. We obviously have to onboard new suppliers. We have to address dealing with varying supplier capabilities in terms of how they're going to send you that information. And then just managing the normal day-to-day activities that happen within the dispenser. Business changes, system changes, mergers and acquisitions, deploying product enhancements, upgrades to infrastructure, dealing with security. So what we have to take and assume is that the requirements related to the Drug Supply Chain and Security Act will continue to evolve. Those requirements are not fully defined right now, and they will continue to evolve up to November 2023 and very likely after 2023. So this really speaks to when you're selecting a solution to be selecting a partner that not only has the right capabilities today, but has the ability to rapidly deploy that new functionality, not just to you, but to also be able to ensure that those integrations with your trade partners, with those indirect suppliers, remain up to date and intact and operational so that you're not delaying your shipment or your operations in any way. And so what TraceLink has done is it's put together its solution for dispensers for the 2023 requirements. And first and foremost, this solution is built on the Opus platform, which is that digital network platform that we talked about before. So it gives you access to the distributors, the pharmaceutical manufacturers that are operating on that network, and potentially for future applications like drug shortages, visibility into what's happening with contract manufacturers, API manufacturers. But when we look at compliance in and of itself, there's the need on the left-hand side here for that serial number and event repository. In addition to managing those serial numbers and events, we need to be able to reconcile those to the transaction information and transaction statements associated with those serialized items that represent physical inventory. We have to be able to integrate to those suppliers, our verification and product tracing solutions, and then a solution that we expect to deploy in the future, which is optimizing our ability as an industry to execute recalls, our digital recall solution. This is all built on what we refer to as the Opus compliance framework, which allows us to quickly establish workflows and business logic to deploy a compliance solution, the Drug Supply Chain and Security Act being one of them. We continue to provide the integrations that we do today into pharmacy management systems, warehouse management systems, and other healthcare systems. And in addition, what we've done is we've invested heavily in our ability to help our customers bring additional intelligence to their operations through serialized product intelligence and a new capability, product availability intelligence, which really is designed to address the challenges around drug shortages. And from a non-functional perspective, but very important to the success of any solution, is the user groups and forums that are kind of bookended here around the solution. So our cloud community groups, for many of you who are our customers, you're participating in these today, as well as our training and certification programs that are available to you to ensure that the users of the system and the administrators of that system have the proper training and certification to perform their daily activities. So a little bit more about our digital recall solution, which we'll be deploying and making available as part of a future release. The digital recall solution is really designed to allow dispensers to receive targeted recall notifications. So no longer just receiving notifications for any product that is under a recall, whether you have that product or have ever received that product. We're enabling what we refer to as targeted recall notifications based on lot number, date range, and serialization information. And as we deploy this and integrate it into our DSCSA solution, if you're going through a receiving process, to be able to alert you if the product that is being shipped to you is currently under a recall. So really being able to prevent you from receiving recalled product into your inventory. And then for product that you've already received, to really be able to provide a proactive recall response that allows you to gather up information about any inventory that you have or that you may have received that may be part of a recall. And then in addition, our product availability intelligence solution, which is really a new concept and a true collective intelligence solution, where we have developed a model that can predict drug shortages 90 days ahead of what companies of when companies are able to predict them today. And we're doing this by leveraging anonymized data on the network. But the key thing here is that it's network-wide data, right? So information that is currently flowing through the network today, we're able to, and we have created a model that analyzes that information to provide that forecast of a drug shortage, which ultimately allows you more time to react to that pending drug shortage. And we'd love to tee up some additional discussions with you about the progress that we're making there. And so some proof points of TraceLink and our performance. And obviously we've talked about our success within the dispenser space with over 300 300 dispenser customers. You can look at our network. We have a thriving network of over 287,000 members of that network. We have almost 900 customers, including dispensers, that are engaged in managing serialized product today. That's a critical differentiator in terms of the experience that we not only have as an organization, but within our solutions that have been battle tested and hardened through the use of that capability from our customers. Currently managing over 33 billion serial numbers and currently managing almost 1 billion transaction histories across the supply chain. So, you know, we're proud of the capability that we have in the work that we've done. We have a lot to do as a provider and as an industry, but this gives you a sense of the proven success that we have in deploying and scaling multi-enterprise applications and process-oriented networks. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about some success we have. This is a case study. This is a health system that was preparing for, in their words, the supply chain, preparing their supply chain for what they understand as complex challenges related to DSCSA. They wanted to be able to comply with DSCSA early. They felt that DSCSA enhanced their patient safety and their ability to deliver top patient safety throughout their organization. They wanted to use DSCSA and item level serialization to gain better visibility throughout the entire health system. And then looking forward to be able to optimize recall processes and be able to have a better sense of how a recall is impacting their inventory positions. What we've deployed with this health system is supplier integration for the exchange of DSCSA information. We're sourcing master data from pharmaceutical manufacturers for them, and are deploying our verification capability and product tracing capability for the requirements of DSCSA. We've also obviously have deployed the serialization repository, and they have elected to go through a serialized receiving process. So today we're managing for this health system over 1 million transaction histories. 15 of their locations are going through a serialized receiving process where they're scanning and reconciling physical items to the compliance documentation, and we've integrated 16 of their direct suppliers already. And you can see a quote here from their system vice president for pharmacy in terms of looking at TraceLink not only as a partner for dealing with DSCSA, but helping them through the supply chain challenges and supplier integration challenges that they were having. Our second example is from a retail pharmacy. This is a large national retail pharmacy chain. They recognize the need to start early because of the complexity and size of their organization. They have multiple business units within their organization, so they really needed flexibility in their platform to meet the different requirements within their different units. They did not want to have a siloed approach to compliance. We've deployed much of the same capabilities that we referred to earlier, but if you look at some of the success that we've had here, we are this organization is taking a random sampling approach of how they scan serialization data. So they scan about 200,000 items on a monthly basis. They are registering those items and reconciling those items against compliance information. And this capability has been deployed across a combination of distribution centers as well as some direct pharmacies in individual pharmacy locations. And for this organization, an important part of the decision-making process was recognizing the need to start early, but in addition to starting early, somebody that was going to represent their requirements throughout the industry and really leverage their position as a market leader in the industry to gain broader support and awareness and bring our industry expertise in the area of DSCSA to their benefit. And that's really been a big part of the success that we've had to date. We work hand in hand with this particular retail pharmacy, not only to ensure that they are compliant, but making sure that their requirements are understood in these various standards and industry organizations. And so what we wanted to do here is really kind of give you a view of looking at those required capabilities, really kind of breaking them down into the application or multi-enterprise application capabilities, capabilities around service and support, and capabilities around experience. There's obviously competitors that are in this space that we compete with on a daily basis, but we felt it was important to describe the requirements of the 2023 DSCSA deadline, what those capabilities are, TraceLink's ability to meet them, and that we've already met the majority of them, if not all of them, already with product that we have deployed in the market. Where other organizations just don't have that depth of experience. They may have a lot level compliance solution, but they do not have that item level compliance solution. They may be missing key pieces of functionality such as mobile receiving capability, the ability to be able to reconcile an item to the DSCSA compliance documentation, the ability to be able to source that master data. So we have to look at this requirement as not just being able to send or receive an EPCIS transaction, but really dig deeper and understand the capabilities that ultimately means for any solution. In addition to that, you can see services and support and how we differentiate ourselves from a services and support perspective from other solutions in the market, whether it be 24/7 technical support, the no-cost post-implementation services that we provide, training and certification, access to our community forums. And maybe one of the most important capabilities that we provide is the access to engage with pharmaceutical manufacturers and wholesalers through TraceLink's cloud community forums. And then in addition to that, just our experience with not just DSCSA, but with serialization. We are by far the leader in lot level DSCSA within the dispenser space, as well as customers that have deployed serialization capability in the dispenser segment already. And so where do we go from here? We ask that you contact us, and we'd like to meet with you and review your specific requirements. We'd really like to sit with you and determine and potentially recommend a compliance approach for you based on what we see other companies with similar profiles deploying. We want to review the solution in detail with you. And really prepare for that detailed workshop where we can go through the not just the solution in detail, but really do some business process mapping for how serialization will impact your operations. What we recommend is that each organization should have a DSCSA business sponsor. This may be the VP of Pharmacy, the VP of Pharmacy Operations. In some organizations, it may be supply chain, your regulatory and compliance subject matter experts, and then your supply chain and information technology teams as their key stakeholders. And then if you have any key business process owners from pharmacy or pharmacy operations. And with that, I thank you. We certainly would encourage you to reach out to us at marketing@tracelink.com, and we can schedule some time to meet with you. As you can see, that we have a lot of work ahead of us as an industry. Time is running out. November 2023 is coming at us quite quickly, and we certainly would love the opportunity to be your partner for DSCSA to help you and support you in meeting your DSCSA compliance needs.